The family of late anti-gang unit detective Lieutenant-Colonel Charl Kinnear's family say they're frustrated by the lack of cooperation from police management. Kinnear was gunned down outside his home in 2020. Now, National Police Commissioner Khehla Sitole has denied allegations that he has not cooperated with IPID's investigation into Kinnear's murder. Kinnear's widow, Nicolette, joins me now. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. This must be a very difficult process as there are more questions than there are answers. How are you coping throughout this entire process?
Hi there, good morning. Thanks for inviting me. Look, it's been, I think the 16 months in itself has been a frustrating and immensely emotional and exhausting time for us. And situations like what has come to light now hasn't made it any easier for us, definitely not.
Which, were you aware that the National Police Commissioner Khehla Sitole has been implicated based on the report that you were perhaps privy to seeing?
Look, unfortunately, the first report, or the first IPID report, surfaced, I think it was in November, if I recall correctly. And like with yesterday, that one was leaked as well. So the morning we my boys and I got the news with the rest of South Africa or the country. Likewise yesterday as well, we found out about the letters being drafted and no fault of IPID, the fact that a meeting still had to be set up with us in order to discuss the process or what has indeed transpired from the investigation. So they never got the time to do so. From our side, in the meantime, yesterday, we didn't get or we never had any contact with neither any IPID office, the National Commissioner or the Minister's office. Today, thus far, the only office that has contacted me has been the IPID office to set up a meeting so that we can have a discussion in terms of, what has now come to light. So I'll be doing that in next week. And then obviously I'd be able to ask the necessary questions.
And one of those very crucial questions you need answers to is around why your husband's security details were removed in 2019. As you try and get your frustrations, as you vent out and try have some ears listen, what are some of the other questions that you are looking to get answers to?
Obviously, that one was one of the big ones that we raised, or the flags that we raised. The other was the process after finding out, because my husband's phone, all his devices were listened or pinged as early as March, April 2020. And we know that the assassination only happened in September. So there was a couple of months that this was known, or not necessarily known, but that it was pinged. And then early September, the 3rd or the 4th, was when documents were sent to head officers, the Hawks and others, raising a red flag to say there's big trouble. This man's phone is being pinged unusually. For that 2 weeks, nothing was done. So that is the other question. Why was nothing done in that 2-week span leading up to my husband's assassination?
We know that the National Police Commissioner has been referred to his boss, Minister Khehla, for a second time now this week for failing or perhaps blocking IPID investigations. As you try and get some clarity and perhaps some closure, what are your thoughts around this process and the brick wall that you seem to be hitting?
Look, I've said right from the start that in order, I think, for any of us to have any form of progress, be it IPID, be it us as a family, be it the police management, we have to be working together and we have to be transparent and honest with each other. I know, I've heard that the National Commissioner has has a different stance on or version as to what has happened. As I said, I haven't had any official communication. So in one of us or one party, ducking and diving the necessary questions is not going to help. So for me, I think we as a family, we've been more than patient. As I mentioned before, the 19th of September, which was a day after the assassination, that was in 2020, as a family, we were told that there's going to be an investigation in terms of why the guarding was removed. Now, as I said, to date, we haven't even got a feedback of that. Never mind a report, I don't even get an update to say this is how far the investigation is or the progress. So I am immensely frustrated, and I am feeling as though people are just politely deciding to just ignore, or just somewhere has just said, okay, we'll just leave this. Hopefully it will just quietly go away. And it's not going to happen.
What was the outcome of the meeting you had last year with the Portfolio Committee in terms of a way forward?
Look, the Portfolio Committee undertook obviously to monitor the situation. Later in last year, can't remember the date, it was tabled at the National Assembly. And all the parties or political parties were in agreement with the Portfolio Committee that a close eye be kept on the investigation and the progress thereof. So the Portfolio Committee is obviously, the police is supposed to give them feedback, monthly feedbacks in terms of progress, etc. We know that Parliament went into recess in November and will only be starting again in Feb. So for the past couple of months, obviously, there's been nothing. But they are supposed to be getting monthly reports, and then they forward them to me. Those reports in itself, and I have raised the question there as well, we have actually written to the Chair, Madam Chair, Juma Peterson, and told her that I sometimes feel that what's being reported is a copy-paste of the previous month. We're just going through the motions. So those are issues that I plan on taking up because it's like just adding a paragraph here, putting 2 or 3 sentences in there just to make the report look different than what last month's one was. And I'm not happy with that either.
What would you like to see happen? I mean, this has been a really frustrating process, not very many answers, and still a lot of questions that you need answers to.
Look, for me, of course, it's accountability. We need people to be bold enough and to stand up, and it's not easy. Nobody wants to admit that I was at fault. But 16 months down the line, we cannot still be on the same page where we were on the 18th of September 2020. That is just grossly unacceptable. And then we find that we have had investigations, like the IPID investigation, and then it seems as though deliberately people are just not giving their cooperation, which is this whole stalling process. And with the November report, the IPID report, there were recommendations in there. And IPID can do recommendations, but they cannot go and execute. They recommend to SAPS as to this is what we recommend needs to be done in terms of be it disciplinary procedures or be it criminal procedures. And I made it very clear when I met with IPID last year that we're not going to have a scenario where 6 months down the line somebody's just going to say, oops, sorry, nothing happened. We just wrapped so-and-so over the knuckles, and that's it. People need to be held accountable. If you are in a certain position, doesn't matter what it is that you're supposed to do, if you have done something wrong, you need to be held accountable. Reports and investigations is not going to give us the answers or solve the solutions. Responsibility and accountability, and that is what we're going to hold people to.
Is it comforting at all to know that the IPID head has laid a criminal complaint against National Police Commissioner General Sitole?
Look, I think I can't speak for them, but I'm also at the point where something has to be done. We cannot keep getting the runaround. And if they, and I'm not too sure on which the clause, and because there's a section according to which the charge was laid. But if it is there, then I feel we need to use it. If we need to force people, if people are not willing to give their cooperation when we have to use the system, there's a reason why we have rules and why there's certain acts and regulations in place. Then we're going to have to start using them to get people to cooperate. But as I said, we cannot 16 months down the line still have people giving us the runaround with the same questions that we asked on the 18th of September 2020.
You seem to be very adamant and holding up very well, just considering the trauma and the impact this has had on your family. How are your children coping?
You know, it's a nightmare because yes, it's everybody's referring to Top Cop, but he was their dad. He was my husband. We're not speaking about a cup and a saucer here. There's real emotions and real people at stake. And that's what makes it difficult for us, like even when the first report was leaked. We don't have time to process all of this. So we're here with the rest of the country, and immediately we are bombarded with a lot of love and messages and family because of concern. But then we as a family, or myself and my children, hasn't had the time to process it yet. It's extremely emotional for them. The boys are at a point where they said yesterday, Mom, we need to reset and reboot. It's tough. It's very, very tough because we in this constant, or we have been in this constant battle for the past 16 months. My youngest son made a comment one day and said, it's as though we're watching Showmax or Netflix. We're watching the same movie over and over, just on another day. We're getting no answers just from another person on another day. And we are at the point where I think we're at the point now we've had enough now. We've played this game. We've been more than, I think, accommodating, because we knew that this is not stuff that's just going to, I'll ask you the question tomorrow and you have an answer for me the next day. But I think 16 months down the line, I'll be quite prepared to accept that not all investigations are completed. But I cannot accept that none of them has given us any answers yet. That for me is just a no-no.
Yeah, completely unacceptable. Thank you so much for your time. May you continue to hold up your strength and may those answers finally come to the surface. That was Nicolette Kinnear, Charl Kinnear's wife, the late top cop who was gunned down in September of 2020.